The following program is brought to you by Naleo TV, the People's Platform.
Aloha, my name is Cheryl Soon, and I am a history fan. I love to read and write and go visit places in history, and in particular, Hawaii. I have written 2 books about the statues in Hawaii, who the individuals were who's in the statue, who decided to make the statue and put it up where it is, and how do people celebrate it today. That's been one of my passions in recent years. My first book, Reflections in Stone and Bronze, is about the 60 statues on Oahu. Now, I had originally intended to write 1 book for the state of Hawaii. Little did I know how much I would come across, and so it's now basically in 2 volumes. And although we don't call it Volume 1 and Volume 2, this was the first one that was published and put out to readers about 60 statues. And a lot of it talks about the first statue in Hawaii was one of Kamehameha. It was commissioned by King Kalakaua. It was made in Italy, shipped over in a boat, and it fell off the boat and was lost. So the mold still being available, they commissioned a second one to be made, as well as a very large base that has a 4-sided reliefs of episodes from Kamehameha's life. Well, the story continues. Kamehameha's statue arrives at the dock in Honolulu, and everyone goes down to find it. Voila! It's the first statue that fell off the boat. It has been dredged out by natives in probably the Falklands, from what I can gather. And an enterprising shipmaster understands what it is, and he sells it back to the government of Hawaii. Now, a few weeks later, the second one that had been commissioned arrived, so we now have 2. Well, what to be done? Which one goes where? So the final decision, after much debate, was that the first one is the statue that you now know up in Kohala. The second one is the statue in Honolulu across from Iolani Palace. Now, of course, a third was made from pieces of the mold, and that now sits in the U.S. Capitol as Hawaii's gift to the National Statuary Hall collection. So you see what fun it is once you start digging into these things. And oh, well, of course, there is one more, a slightly different statue of Kamehameha, and that is located on Maui at one of the hotels. So we have some interesting stories. The one that was commissioned for the hotel in Kauai, which the people of Kauai rebelled against and said, please don't put it up. The Kamehameha Alumni Association approached them and said, may we have it? And that is now placed in downtown Hilo in a very beautiful setting. So a lot of that is discussed in this first book, as well as many other important statues of Elvis, of some of the other royals in the state of Hawaii. But go peek into this, there's lots of fun in that. The second book, which is what I'm going to be reading from today, is called Remembering History and Honoring Culture. When I started researching throughout the neighbor islands, I discovered not only did we have a lot of statues, but we had a lot of memorials, and I decided that I would include them in this volume. The memorials primarily were honoring one culture or another. So we organized the book by island, And of course, the very first chapter belongs to the island of Hawaii. So I'm going to take a moment now and read you a couple of passages that I think are interesting about the statues here on this island. Let's begin. The first passage that I'm going to read is about the statue of King David Kalakaua in downtown Hilo. In fact, it's in a park named for him, Kalakaua Park. Kalakaua was the king of Hawaii from 1874 to 1891. He had the interests of his people at heart. He brought back, if you will, hula that had been kind of had to go underground because it was not approved of for a period of time when we were under the influence of some of the New England missionaries. But I'd like to tell you a little bit. We have statues of Kalakaua elsewhere, and it's usually like most statues of him standing up in a pose. This one is unique, and it's uniquely beautiful. So this statue has him seated. He's wearing a military uniform, not Hawaiian regalia, and he's holding an ipu in one hand and taro leaves in the others. For those of you who live anywhere on the island, when you come to Hilo, please stop by and take a look at it because it's such a special statue. So here we go. In this statue, Kalakaua is depicted in uniform and military braids. He's in a seated pose with his head turned, looking at the chain of the islands. The statue is near a banyan tree, which he planted over a century ago. So that banyan tree was planted by Kalakaua. Beneath the statue is a time capsule from 1991, which occurred during a solar eclipse. The solar eclipses were very important in history. It's what brought Cook here. He was looking for a solar eclipse that only happens every 100 years. Designed by Henry Biancini, it was set to be opened, that time capsule, in 2106, which is the next time we'll get that particular solar eclipse. Biancini won the commission after a competition. He was speaking to Kristen Zambuca, the author of the book on Kalakaua, originally published in 1983, has been reprinted since. He came to appreciate Kalakaua's talents, including his skill as an inventor. Biancini inscribed 3 versions of Kalakaua's submarine invention on the back of his belt. So if you walk to the back of the statue, you'll see different versions of a submarine that Kalakaua had in mind and was trying to invent. Biancini's original concept for Kalakaua, he wore a helmet on his head, he held a torch, and he lacked any facial features. But upon consultation with the elder Puakanahele, Biancini added the taro root to one hand and the ipuheke, a double gourd musical instrument, in the other, signifying Kalakaua's love and devotion to the sustenance of the people of Hawaii. The model for the statue was Gabriel Kealoha Jr. The piece was carved and the molds were made in Hawaii. The bronze casting of it was done by Alf Peterson at a foundry in Venice, California. The pieces were returned and Biancini completed the welding in Hawaii. The piece has proven very popular, always has a lei placed upon it with extra attention during the Merry Monarch Hula Festival, which is named in his honor. Kalakaua was called the Merry Monarch. The community received a grant from the Historic Hawaii Foundation to improve the setting of the park, the stairs, and other features symbolic of the ongoing commitment of the space and the subject. So next time, instead of driving by, stop for a few minutes, get out, walk around, and look for these extra features that you can only see close up when you go and look at the statue. The next entry that I would like to describe to you is a little bit more distant than Hilo. It's at the St. Benedict Church in Honaunau. And I picked this particular one because it was the only one I found on the island of Father Damien's, now Saint Damien. Here we go. Father Damien was a Catholic priest from Belgium who became a saint due to his work with leprosy patients in Hawaii. He is associated with many places in the Hawaiian Islands and remains a beloved figure. Prior to going to Kalapapa, Damien spent 9 years on the island of Hawaii, immediately following his ordation at Our Lady of Peace Church in Honolulu. He was assigned to Puna District for 6 months and then moved to Kohala Hamakua District. Damien built many churches of the native thatched hut variety. These were later replaced by permanent structures. While in Puna, the church records show that Damien baptized nearly 100 people and performed 7 marriages. The Sacred Heart Church in Pahoa has a Damien piece to honor his time in the district. A bust and plaque for the beloved Damien was started by Bob Pashby, who did the clay modeling, and it was finished by Sean Brown when Pashby became ill and needed assistance. Brown completed the wax casting and finish, and he delivered the bust to the site. Damien is shown wearing his missionary hat and glasses. The bust also has a lay decorations and offerings left at it. It is set upon a simple rock wall. Beneath the bust is a wooden plaque that shows his name, birth, and death dates. Also inscribed upon it is a passage from Luke 17:12. There met him lepers. What I like to do in my books is both have pictures and writing. And I hope that that's what you will do also. I hope that when you go look at anything, you go look at the ocean, you go look at a tree, that you will bring with you a blank journal, a blank, set of papers, and that you will draw a little picture of what interests you, and then maybe one word, bird. Or maybe the next time you do it, you say what type of bird it is. Or maybe you start saying something special about the bird, that it doesn't sit on the ground for very long. It takes off. Or the kalea bird stands on one foot. Isn't that kind of interesting? It's observing and then writing. And writing can start with one word, and then it can be one sentence. And you just keep going. And then all of a sudden you'll start having feelings about it. How do you feel when you see a kalea bird standing on one foot? Are you fascinated to see if he's going to tip over? Are you fascinated to see, is he looking for a worm? What's going on with him? And then sometimes, do you have similar feelings? Do you ever stand on one foot and watch what's going around you and make observations? So start your writing with one word and then one sentence, and put a little drawing. And maybe, how did you feel when you were doing this? Thank you so much for being with me for the last few minutes. Thank you for listening to me read from my book. I hope you might enjoy other passages from it. It's called Remembering History and Honoring Culture. It's about Hawaii. The second book is just about the neighbor islands, so Hawaii, Maui, Kauai, Molokai. And thank you for watching Island Storybook on Naleo TV. Aloha.
Special mahalo to those in our community who support literacy here on Hawaii Island. Naleo TV wants to encourage reading and writing in an ever-changing digital world. Reading is a fundamental skill that opens up a world of knowledge, imagination, and personal growth. Mahalo for tuning in to this episode of Island Storybook. Check out our website, naleo.tv, for more videos on demand, and get ready for the next story we find.